Hey gamers, welcome back to the channel. Today we're jumping back into King Arthur Legends Rise, and today we're talking about legendaries. Let's talk about the best legendaries in the game and where you can put your resources and those resources not be wasted. With resources, I've said that enough now, right? With resources, as limited as they are in this game, even with resets, because those are limited as well, you're going to want to make sure to put your resources where you really want to put them and where you're not going to waste them. And there's some great legendaries here that you can put all the resources into, and you're definitely going to get your money's worth or your resources worth. There's a lot to discuss here, so let's get into it. All right, and welcome back. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it. We're going to talk about Morgan because Morgan is for everybody. Everybody gets her for free. She's a great character now. She's been great in previous betas as well. If we take a look at her skills here, her S1 has a 50% chance to put people to sleep for 2 turns. One thing to remember about sleep is that if you hit them, if your AoE hits them, they are going to wake up, so you're not going to get the full 2 turns. So if you're trying to lock up the other team with stuns or freezes or sleeps, just a little bit of strategy that comes into play there. The S2, very handy here, attacks all enemies 3 times, does some damage. 70% chance to decrease the target's attack gauge, that's the turn meter, by 10% with every attack, which I think is good. Again, these are max stats here. And then the S3, this is the one that I use the most. I use her in Penvid specifically. 100% chance to inflict that damage taken increase. That way Penvid's going to take more damage. Bosses will take more damage. Enemies will just take more damage. She's great for bosses. And then she also has a 70% chance to inflict recovery disruptions, which mean they can't heal for 1 turn. So I use her S3 specifically in again in Penvid. She hits multiple times. It does help get through that shield as well. If we talk about her passives right here, when attacking while current HP is lower, is 50% or lower, it's going to change weather to night. You're going to gain accuracy increase, speed increase, and also inflicts suspended animation on all enemies for 5 turns. What is that? Becomes incapacitated until hit. Damage taken increased by 50%. So that is great as well. If we take a look at her second one here, when you're using your skill 2, reduces target attack gauge by 45%, removes buffs, so she's got buff removal as well. And then this one here, when using a skill, just when using a skill, inflicts defense decrease 2 for 2 turns, and then inflicts damage taken increase 3 for 3 turns. Again, this is maxed out, so she is, again, she's great. You're not going to regret putting resources into her. Again, the reason why it's so important to talk about which legendaries to put resources into is because they take more to progress than the other rarities, so you want to make sure that you're using them and saving your resources as much as possible, and you're only using them where you really need them. Even again with the resets are limited though as well, so something to keep in mind. So there's Morgan. Let's talk about Merlin. We're going to talk about our top 5, right? So Merlin is great, fantastic. He's always been good. Here's a few things to keep in mind about Merlin. So S1 is going to cause that freeze. Freeze, you can hit the enemy. They're not going to be unfrozen. 35% chance to inflict that freeze for 1 turn. If we talk about his S2, this is the one that I use a lot. So you're going to attack an enemy 4 times. You're going to cause some damage, but 100% chance to inflict frozen remains. What does that mean? That means it grants damage taken decrease to the attacker for a turn. So he's going to take less damage. He's also going to have dot immunity for 2 turns and a 90% chance, that's a high percent chance, to recharge his attack gauge by 30%. So by using his S2, he's going to have an opportunity to attack more. And then S3, this is great. Attacks all enemies twice. 55% chance for the last hit to inflict freeze for 1 turn. So nice AoE. High percent chance to inflict freeze. I've used it before and had the entire enemy team frozen, which is kind of cool. Let's talk about his passives. So when using skill 2 at HP 50% or higher, right? That's the S2 we're talking about. Changes the weather to day. So if you got him, so like I've got him with Crumb, Crunch, I had him, Arthur, and Kay. They all benefit from day, so that was good. Charges Vigor +5. Also removes debuffs, dots, and abnormal statuses from all allies, which is fantastic. So that is very cool. This one here, I really like this one because using the S3, so strategically using that S3, knowing it costs the most vigor, grants all allies defense increase 2 for 2 turns, which is great. Also grants all allies recovery over time for 2 turns. So when I had him and I had Sarah on my team, I would strategically use my S3 so I can increase my defense, put some recovery over time on my team, and then Sarah would then do her big heal, which really, really came in handy. He's awesome. I used him in, I used him in Gorgos specifically right now. And again, that S2. Gorgos is cool because he's got the dot immunity, so I don't have to worry about it so much. He also takes less damage, so we do quite a bit of damage with him. So those are 2. Let's talk about the third. Tristan. Not necessarily because Tristan is the best, but one thing I also want to be cognizant of when we talk about kind of who are the best legendaries here is how well they're going to do in boss battles also. I know people are using Tristan for Crom Crunch. He's also really good for Penvid. You get him for free, so there's no reason really not to use him. If we talk about his skills, here, attacks an enemy, 80% chance to inflict speed decrease for 2 turns. That's important. That's all I use for him on Penvid is for that speed decrease. We also got his S2, attacks an enemy for 2 turns. He's going to cause some damage. Each point of attack speed increases the amount of damage per hit. Total extra damage there. Also, then if the target has protection, so any one of these, which Penvid has, right, deals additional damage 1 time. Also gain attack speed increase. So yeah, that's his S2. I don't really use that a whole lot. On auto, I just have him on that S1 so we can keep his turn meter reduction going and keeping that down. S3 here attacks an enemy 3 times. Does some damage here. Again, attack speed increases the damage. Inflicts attack speed decrease. But we don't need that because we have that down here with this as attack speed decrease 2 for 2 turns versus the 1 for 2 turns. So again, if he's got protection, then he deals some additional damage. So keeping him on that S1 is the best. If we take a look at his passives here, when attacking, attacks 1 enemy 4 times. So you're going to attack him multiple times to get that shield down. You're going to do some damage. You're also going to gain critical strike damage increase 2 for a turn. Again, remember these are all maxed out. Second passive here, when attacking a target with protection, decreases all passive cooldowns by 6 turns. That's huge. And Penvid's got protection, so that's going to help. Charges attack gauge by 80%. Transparent Throwing Star gains prepare skill 1, blah, blah, blah. Transparent Throwing Star attacks an enemy 5 times. So very cool stuff. And then his third one here, when attacking, charges attack gauge by 60%. This is just when attacking, right? Gain attack speed increase, so you've got that for the rest of battle. Also inflicts Bladed Gust, which is effect resistance down, critical strike resistance down. So that effect resistance down is great, especially with, like I said, I have Morgan in there, and with her defense decrease or her damage increase taken by Penvid, definitely helps out. So some very cool stuff there with Tristan. All right, so that's Morgan, Merlin, and Tristan for you. There's 2 I want to talk about that I don't have, but they were great in beta. They're still great now, and feedback that I'm hearing from other people is they are definitely still worth investing in. We got Gawain, great damage dealer here. You can easily swap out Arthur for him as you're working through the campaign or boss battles or whoever you have Arthur in for. You can easily put Gawain in there. He's going to do quite a bit of damage. I can't remember which weapon that you get when you unlock him. So let's just talk about passives here really quick. This right here, at the start of battle and whenever weather changes, you're going to get an attack increase and a defense increase, which is absolutely awesome. His passive 2 here, when using skill 3, change the weather to day and heat, which is awesome because if you've got characters on your team that have day and heat, you're actually going to get those benefits, right? So Merlin, Arthur, Kay, Sarah is heat, so depending on who your healer is, definitely pay attention to the time of day, the weather effects, because it does help your team. So it changes the weather to day heat, charges attack gauge by 30%, also gain damage dealt increase for 1 turn, which is awesome. And then his third passive here, gain blessing for 3 turns, which makes him immune to debuff and abnormal statuses. Makes him great for Crom Crunch if you have him for that battle, because then you're not going to have those abnormal statuses and stuff. Great character, definitely worth the resources. The other one's Jillian, hands down, maybe arguably the best healer in the game. Again, I can't remember which relic that you start out with, but if you just take a look at the passives here, there's a lot to it, right? 80% chance to trigger when attacking, decrease attack gauge. You see her a lot in Arena for that attack gauge decrease, definitely helps. Let's see, by 30% inflicts effect resistance decrease, so that's going to happen more and more, right? Which is cool. Her second passive here, when an ally is inflicted with an abnormal status, then it triggers overhealing for the allies, abnormal status that have an abnormal status, and grants abnormal status immunity for 2 turns. So that's definitely helpful in battles like with Crom Crunch and stuff like that as well. A lot of abnormal statuses in the game. And then if you take a look at the third one here, 70% chance to trigger when an ally recovers HP. You're going to charge that attack gauge for 2 random allies by 30%. So you've got enemy attack gauge reduction, you've got ally attack gauge increase, you've got overhealing. I mean, there's a whole lot of benefit to Jillian in your roster. So definitely put your resources into her. So those are my top 5. Morgan, Merlin, Tristan, Jillian, and Gawain. Not to say that the rest of the characters are bad in any way, but those 5 definitely tend to shine. I do want to give a shout out to Guinevere and Lancelot. They do great as well. Lancelot's got a burn. That works well for like Gorgos and some other battles in the game. Guinevere has got a nice shield. And I hear Guinevere, if you got Guinevere in the team for Crom Crunch, she's the only one that gets taken. And you start out with a team of 3. I don't know if that's a glitch. I don't know if that's intended. I don't know how often that happens, but I would love to see it. All right, everybody, that is what I had for you. As always, I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch the video. If you liked it, make sure you hit that like button and share your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. Take care, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.